Gloria Strode, and welcome to Straightforward. Today we are visiting with our district attorney, and I am just so excited that he has decided that he would continue the awesome legacy of my beloved friend, Albany State's best and brightest, our former district attorney that passed away, Stacey S. Jackson. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you for having me.
I am just so excited that you agreed, didn't know all of this was going to happen, to come back with Stacey and rebuild the district attorney's office.
Well, it was something that was very important to me. I had worked in the district attorney's office for 17 straight years.
Really?
When the 2020 election happened. I was one of the senior people who was fired, but I worked out of Columbus in Houston County and then in Troup County for that year and a half that I was gone.
Wow.
But I continued to live in Columbus. Columbus is my home.
So you never physically left. So you were working in the district attorney's office even when Stacey was in private practice?
I was.
Okay, but you all had worked together before that because he was an assistant DA before he went into the private practice. So you all had long history.
We did.
Both of you were a little younger.
Considerably younger.
Yeah.
We started out together. Well, Stacey had come to the DA's office in 2000. I came back to the DA's office in 2003, and we worked together for 5 years.
Really?
A lot of people don't remember that time that Stacey spent 8 years in the district attorney's office, and I would argue that that's one of the things that made him such a good lawyer when he went into private practice was he had that experience.
He saw both sides.
That's correct.
Right, and so he was a brilliant lawyer, and of course always gave 110% and always looked the part. Now.
Yes.
I always remember his mom teasing about the suits and the colors that he was wearing, but he had style about himself, but he was a brilliant attorney.
He was, absolutely.
He was a brilliant attorney. So people didn't know that you had worked with him prior to coming back to help him with this. For how many years? 8 or?
We worked together for 5 years.
At the district attorney's office.
Correct.
And you all both were assistant DAs.
That's correct.
Okay. And so that's where that bond was built.
Exactly. That was a period of time where we got to try a lot of cases together, watch each other try cases, and there were other folks in the office, most of whom have moved on to other things, like Stacey did for a while.
Right.
But we maintained that relationship even when he moved to the other side. I had a tremendous amount of respect for Stacey. I knew that if I had a trial coming up with Stacey, he was going to be prepared, he was going to know the facts of the case, and he was going to give me everything he had. Right,
and I remember you saying that at his funeral, and you was like, no, and it was like, it was a competition, but it was in love. It's like, you better be prepared, you better bring your A game, because he was going to bring his.
Absolutely.
But you learned that about him because what? You all had worked together for 5 years.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Stacey hated to lose.
Very competitive.
He was very competitive, but at the same time, he was very good at evaluating cases, the facts of a case up front, and making decisions from there as to how to deal with the case. He had a really sharp intellect as far as looking at the facts and saying, okay, a jury is going to like our case, or they're not going to like our case.
I remember you sharing that story about, he was like, no, I don't want to try that one, and you were like, yeah, we want it. And he was like, no, because we're going to lose. And he didn't want to lose.
That is correct.
Yeah, so that's very endearing and very warm, happy stories about him in the workplace and then your relationship. So then that explained to me, when I heard all of that about you, why he would call you up and ask you, which is a big ask now, to make a career change, to come and be with him. And that position was an elected position, even though he was filling in, because we had, another situation where it didn't work out for the previous elected official.
Right.
So for you to leave your regular job, career, again, make a change, and then come back to Muscogee County, that was a lot to do for a friend.
It was, and I had told people during that time that I was, especially by the time I got to LaGrange in that last year, I was working in LaGrange. I enjoyed working in that office. I knew, I'd gotten to know the people there.
Right.
I felt safe election-wise there. And when Stacey called me up and talked to me about it and said, I'd like for you to come back and work in Columbus. And I said,
like,
well,
oh, wow.
I said, let's get together and talk about it.
Because you already had experienced that once, right?
That is correct.
Right.
That is correct. And I thought, I really need to think about this.
Yeah.
I want things to be good for Columbus. It's my hometown. It's where I was still living.
Right.
At the same time.
This is your village, but at the same time, I got to use some wisdom here.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. So we met, talked one afternoon, spent the whole afternoon in a coffee shop downtown, talked. And Stacey mapped out his plans for the office, and of course he had really thought about it a lot. He'd put a lot of effort into it, and this was before he had been sworn in.
Right.
And by the end of that, I got in my car and I thought, well, I've got to do this.
So he had presented his case and worked on all the facts with you. So then, by the time you got in the car, you was pretty much bought in.
I was.
Yeah. And so once he was sworn in, then you came on board as?
The Chief Assistant District Attorney.
Okay, Chief Assistant.
So that made me the number 2 attorney in the office.
Right.
And of course, I still answered to Stacey, and to be fair, we didn't agree on every single thing. But
in real life, your real people won't agree with you on everything.
Exactly.
And I tell, my child who's a full-grown adult with children, if you have people around you that's agreeing with everything you say, you're at risk.
Right.
You're at risk because you don't always agree with your parents, your spouse. Who does that? And that can really lead you down a path of destruction. But for me, for Stacey to select you to be the number 2 guy, that said to me, and I heard everything you said at his service, that he respected you and he really trusted you. That means a lot. And I just thought that the reason I wanted you to come today, and I shared this with you when we chatted at another time, I wanted to make sure that I helped tell the story of Stacey and the legacy and the why he selected you. Because he knows a lot of people.
Absolutely.
His parents. We are the Albany State University, and we got greatness all over the country.
Yes.
No, really. But it really spoke as to why. And not just the history, because see, I've worked with a lot of people that I don't even want to have a cup of coffee with now. I'm just saying, just really. But for him to trust you.
Yes, it meant a lot. It really did. And Stacey didn't want me to be a yes man him. He wanted me.
He wanted straight.
He wanted it straight.
He's my birthday twin, so I know he wants it straight. We
Right.
don't have to agree. We might stand up on the table and yell a minute, but we want it straight.
And I say all of that, but for the most part, on big issues, we were in agreement.
Absolutely.
We had come up together as prosecutors,
So
and we
you all
agreed
knew
on most
some of
things.
the things, yeah.
But it wasn't, as with any 2 people, it wasn't everything.
Oh, absolutely. So what we're going to do now, go to our first break to our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
We'll be right back after word from some of our sponsors. Straightforward is brought to you by State Senator Ed Harbison, serving the citizens of Georgia's 15th Senatorial District and on the front lines for veterans every day. Progressive Funeral Home, family owned and operated since 1952. The George Ford legacy of high standards continues today in the compassionate and professional services provided, a touch of dignity for those who care. Progressive Funeral Home, 4235 St. Mary's Road, trusted by generations. Whole Patient Healthcare. Dr. Jada Rimes-Bacote is board certified in family medicine. She believes the best patient care includes practical, individualized lifestyle changes. Located at 1338 13th Avenue, Columbus, 706-641-2080, or visit wholepatienthealthcare.com. welcome back to Straightforward. I am enjoying this wonderful, heartfelt conversation with our district attorney. Just cannot thank him enough for continuing the legacy of my beloved Stacey, Albany State University, best and brightest, I tell you. So Stacey trusted you to be the number 2 that speaks a lot, and you all have a big team. I didn't realize you had so many people. So that's a whole lot of managing people and locations. So how much staff do you have?
We have a total of 74 people that work for the district attorney's office in one way or another. Most people think of the attorneys, but we have a whole team of investigators.
Okay.
We have legal assistants who help with the filing, preparing documents that we need for trial. We have a whole team of victim witness advocates who work with victims and witnesses and guide them through the process. They make outreach to the victims at the very first hearing. Even before the very first hearing, they typically give them a phone call, meet them at the first hearing if they wish to attend, and then start walking them through the process, because that's a very difficult thing for victims to go through. They don't know
what to do, and they need somebody to help them navigate. Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
And then you have more than one location.
We do. We have most of our offices in the government center here in Columbus, but we do have a satellite office with 5 employees in Hamilton, which serves Harris County. One of those employees is state paid and splits his time between Harris County and Taylor County.
Wow. So the geography. You know, I worked for the Census Bureau, so I know people might say, well, oh, Harris is a small county, but it's the geography. When you got to drive from Harris to Taylor, you know, to Chattahoochee, back to Muskogee.
Right.
To Talbot. So a lot of times it's not about the population, it's about the road miles.
Exactly.
And that's a lot of road miles.
It is.
It is.
It is. I spent a year in 2009 and into 2010. I worked in the Hamilton office. At that time, I was state paid. And at that time, we ran all 5 of the outlying counties out of Hamilton. So I was on the road almost every day.
Yes.
I was definitely on the road getting to Hamilton, but oftentimes I was on the road going to another county.
Yeah, from one place to the other. And then when you get there, people don't understand that that's never commuted, because I know people that's never really commuted. But when you got to go to multiple counties, then you got to be sharp when you get there. You still have to work when you arrive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It is. It is tiring.
It is. And then you learn to live out your car. It turns into a mini apartment. That's what we used to call it in the Census Bureau. Oh, it's your apartment. What do you have in your apartment? Because you're in the car so much.
Absolutely, yeah, and a mix. It was an apartment and an office, because we didn't have an office in some of those locations.
Right. And you need to have everything there that you needed, and especially in some of those are very rural counties.
Absolutely.
So if you didn't have all of your resources in your car / apartment as you're rolling, you know, then you could be really in a bind. Especially with the kind of work you were doing.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So the reason I wanted you to share that part is because I wanted the community to know that you know what it's like, boots on the ground.
Absolutely.
You know, not just starting at the top. And that's what I tell a lot of the young people. You have to look at what people did on the career path to get to the top position. So now you're in the top position and you've earned it because what? You worked in the field. It's just like those that are in the military. You know, they go from being a private. You just don't get to be a general because you want to be a general. You got to put the time and the work in.
Right.
Right. So you got a lot of young people in your office.
We do. That was a big thing for Stacey and I when we arrived, or when Stacey arrived. I think there were 9 openings. He recruited me, and that's just attorneys.
Really?
Yes.
So you all really rebuilt the whole organization.
Absolutely. That had to be job one when we started. And so we worked hard to recruit people. We got people to move here from other parts of the state.
Really?
We got people to shift from civil work at a firm to come to work for our office with the because the one thing we offer that almost no other legal job offers is the opportunity to try cases and to serve the community.
Okay.
So
That's the difference.
It is. It is.
Because it's a big risk
Right.
to come and work for somebody in an elected position. Because if the leadership change, then you are sometimes out of work.
I have found that out personally.
That's what I'm saying. So he really had to talk you into doing that. But what struck me is when you said you got people, you all, your team, you and Stacey working together to come from other places.
We did.
To come here to work.
We
Because
did.
you were looking for the best talent.
We were. We were looking for the best talent, and now we have a great group of individuals.
Mm-hmm.
We've been trying cases. We've been working on the backlog that was created by COVID and the courts being shut down for a year. Before that, we had the flooding at the courthouse.
Yes.
We only had one courtroom we could work out of. That
Really?
slowed everything down. And then...
So you all was on roller skates trying to catch up.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have started that process. We're fully staffed in the courtrooms. During the time before Stacey took over, we sometimes had one attorney answering to a judge with a caseload of over 1,000 felony cases.
Really?
That was unworkable.
It was.
So now we have at least 2 people dedicated to every courtroom. We've been able to bring down the numbers so nobody has those kinds of numbers
Right.
anymore. We've made a lot of progress, but we need to keep that going forward
Right.
to get back to where we are really on top of things. And we are addressing the cases as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so that impacted, of course, we knew COVID and everything shut down. So one person with 1,000 people on a caseload, that was tying up the jail too.
Absolutely.
So it's like a domino effect.
It
See,
is.
and I'm glad we're having this conversation because John Q. Public would not know that kind of thing. I just learned something today. That is and I was an old social worker, that's unimaginable to have a caseload of that size, even if you working at the Department of Family and Children's Service, let alone in the criminal justice system.
Absolutely.
Because that, when you're an attorney, it's a lot of work and study and research, and of course you got team to help you with that. But still, that's a lot.
Well, and you mentioned the jail, and that's one thing a lot of times people see prosecutors from a very maybe cartoonish perspective of they're just trying to put people in jail. But we have an ethical duty to look out for the rights of the people that we're dealing with who are alleged to have committed crimes.
Exactly.
We want to move cases as quickly as possible
Right.
to trial
Right.
and allow that,
Justice is blind.
Exactly.
You gotta be fair on both sides.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And so actually within the bar rules, there's a different set of ethical principles that apply to prosecutors, and people don't know that or understand that.
Right.
So where a criminal defense attorney or a civil attorney, their ethical obligation is to represent their client
Right.
zealously.
Yes.
They're supposed to do everything they can for their
Exactly.
client. We have a very different duty. We have to make sure that everything is done equitably, fairly, and that everyone, including criminal defendants, get treated fairly.
See, and that's what I like. Okay, so what we're going to do is go to our final break to our sponsors, and we'll be right back. We'll be right back after word from some of our sponsors. Columbus Pediatrics, Georgia, working together to build lifelong relationships between our staff and patients by consistently providing compassion, excellence, and value with 2 locations. The Old Town office at 3580 Massey Lane, Suite F, 706-596-8667. The Midtown office, 1900 11th Avenue, Suite A, 706-323-3400, ColumbusPediatricsGA.com. Barbara's Cleaning Service, a 5-star commercial service with satisfied customers in Georgia and South Carolina, built on the principle that every detail matters. Barbara's Cleaning Service, a new season building a family legacy. David Benefield at the historic Highland Hall, florist extraordinaire, making dreams come true for all occasions. Visit David and his team today at 1504 17th Street or call 706-324-4881, where happiness blooms. And welcome back to Straightforward. I'm continuing this wonderful visit with our district attorney, and I am just so thankful that you would take time. I know you're busy because your circuit, the district, has how many counties?
6 counties total.
6 counties, so that's a lot of geography. I know that you're busy and trying to, keep all the balls in the air, and of course, you and my beloved Stacey and our Albany State's best and brightest, brilliant attorney did a lot to rebuild the district attorney's office. But I want to brag a little bit on you being the hometown kid.
Okay.
Of course, it's a long place from being that, both of us, I'm a little more mature than you, but we got a little gray going on there. But you are from Columbus.
I am. I grew up here. I was born at the medical center.
At the medical center. Now, that's really a flashback because, now the new people know it as Piedmont.
That's right.
Okay, so, yeah.
I grew up in Columbus, went to public schools, graduated from Hardaway.
Okay, we won't hold that against you. I'm a Carver girl, but Hardaway put out some pretty good people, so we're going to give you a little credit on that.
Well, I
okay?
appreciate that. Went to the University of Georgia.
Okay.
Later went to Georgia State University Law School in
Okay.
Atlanta. I was, by that point, married, working in Atlanta,
Okay.
and then came back home after I graduated law school.
Okay, so see, you're the hometown kid. No, and that's important because, again, when you came on board and even when you were working with the district attorney, when you and Stacey in the early years, people didn't know who you was.
Right.
So now, since you've picked up that baton and you're going to run to the finish line for Stacey, people need to know you're not some transplant from somewhere else. You're the hometown kid.
Yeah, spent almost my whole life except for 11 years.
Right.
Here
And
in
so,
Columbus.
who was the favorite teacher that you had at Hardaway? We don't want to get you in trouble, but let me take favorite back. Who was the person that made the biggest impression on you? Because we all have that one teacher.
Right. There were so many, and I will say that I was not a great student in high school,
Really?
believe it or not.
Don't say you were at the principal's office, but you were not studious.
I was a few times. Ultimately I did well. I did get into the University
You
of
finally
Georgia,
came
but
to yourself.
I did.
You were the average teenage boy, we would say.
Yes.
Okay.
But Mr. Wright, our Latin teacher, he always brought things in from outside of school, and he would stop and talk about things.
He was intriguing.
He was. He was a very interesting guy, and he was tough. I mean, Latin's not easy.
No, I know.
He was tough on us, but at the same time, he would stop and bring things in. I remember one very specific memory, and I knew who this was because I was a big music fan, but many of the kids that I went to school with didn't have any idea who Bob Marley was. And the day he died, Mr. Wright had a whole class about Bob Marley.
Really?
Yeah, it was
and that was
pretty
wonderful
neat.
Cultural enrichment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I always ask professionals like yourself that because there's always someone. And of course, our awesome videographer here, David, was telling me about his teacher that he had in school that engaged him with a camera. And here he is now, former military, all the career moves he's made, and now at a mature age, we're AARP age. The camera is what he's enjoying now. But back then, that wasn't the path because he went to the military.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's why I always like to ask people, because there's always somebody that was on the path with us that pushed us into where we are now. We don't see it then. It's just later down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you're the hometown kid, and so I want people to know that. And for the Hardaway people, I'm going to let y'all get a little credit on that. And for the Georgia people, we'll give them a little credit on that because, Stacey and I are the Albany State University. But yeah, all of our schools, we believe in good quality education here in Georgia. And so we just salute everyone. But I want you to share with our audience where you're located, what those hours are, and anything useful information that you want to share that they should know about the office?
Yes. So we are located on the 3rd floor of the Government Center.
Okay.
We have almost the whole floor. We are open from 8:30 until 5.
Okay.
And if somebody has an issue, we will often meet with them after hours. That's
Okay.
not a problem.
But they need to set an appointment.
But they need to call and set an appointment.
Right.
So one of the things I think, as I was saying before, that people don't understand about the DA's office is that we have a lot of other duties.
Other duties as assigned.
That is correct. That is
That's the one in
correct.
your job description that'll get you every time. Other duties as assigned. Yeah.
So we handle juvenile courts in all 6 of the counties.
Really?
We do. And so.
I used to be a juvenile tracker. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
We handle those. We handle all of the alternative courts, specifically drug court, mental health court, and veterans court,
right.
which is to try to divert people
Right.
out of the criminal justice
Yes,
system
I've been
and into a
appointed
treatment.
to that board, so I'm on there
Okay.
with Dana Newsom and
Yes.
her team. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so I was very excited about that.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming. I applaud you for supporting our wonderful Stacey. I stand behind you with taking that torch and continuing to run to the finish line. And I will give you a little credit for being a Hardaway and a Georgia person, but for definitely not thinking of Columbus as a place not great enough for you to come back and bring your talents. Because you could be anywhere in the world, but you came back home, and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's
All
been a
right.
real pleasure.
All right, well, we'll have you back again.
All right.
All right. This has been straightforward. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. Until next time, be blessed.
The Autism Hope Center. Diane Pope has dedicated the last 3 decades ensuring that families had support and resources for their loved ones on the autism spectrum. Join the Autism Hope Center for fellowship and resources located at 200 Hamilton Road, Suite B, or call 706-604-6333. Muskogee County Coroner Buddy Bryan. Buddy has set high standards for himself and his staff, ensuring that every citizen is treated with dignity and respect, regardless of circumstances. Buddy cares about crime prevention and is always excited to speak with students and community organizations. Reach out to Buddy at 706-653-3260.
What up, world? What's up, Columbus? Be sure to tune in every Sunday, Straightforward with Gloria Strode, right here on NBC 38.